Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Running the Bases. I'm your host, Michael Carafa. I'm joined today by Ryan Blank and Marco Peralta. Unfortunately, Nick Nath could not join us today, and for the first time in a little while, we don't have a guest today. So this is just the three of us, and if it were Nick, it would just be the OG guys today. But I'm happy to have us here today. Another great morning. It is Season 3, Episode 21. Incredible to think that we have had 21 episodes already in Season 3. Season 3 started all the way back in the beginning of the offseason, and it's winding down. We don't have many episodes left. We've only got a couple weeks left here in March before we hit April 1st. Once April 1st hits, that's opening day. That's Season 4. So, I mean, the content's going to be coming. The preseason content is definitely coming through here. This is the first of our many annual segments that we're going to be doing here before the season starts. However, we do have a 2-week break before we get into the full-blown getting ready for the season shows, where we have 2 more kind of cool off-season shows to do before we get into preparatory stuff for the year. So let's get into this today, shall we? As you can tell by the title, this is Underrated Players Per Team. As I said earlier, this is going to be an annual segment where we are going to be doing this every year because I think it's cool to look at one guy that's underrated per team. We might even all have different players. It would have been nice to have Nick here too, to have his input too. We might have ended up getting some really cool underrated guys. I think some teams will end up having pretty similar players, but I think it's going to be cool to have. So we're going to start it off with the American League. We're going to go with the AL East first, and with the Baltimore Orioles, starting off with the team I've got on my shirt today. We have the Orioles, and the Orioles are a team that has been struggling for a while, looking for a player to really kind of anchor them down. They haven't really found that yet. But my underrated player for the Royals is Ryan Mountcastle. Ryan Mountcastle had a very good year last year, arguably the best year out of anybody on the Royals, when all they were looking at was really the other guys. I mean, people were paying so much attention to Renato Nunez when Ryan Mountcastle was out here hitting over 300, the only player to bat over 300 on the Orioles last year, and no one paid attention to him. So I think Ryan Mountcastle definitely deserves a lot more attention than he's been getting. Ryan, you will be next.
Shoot, my bad. I thought we were going to work out.
It's okay.
I went with Anthony Santander. I think he is going to be a staple of this team. Again, this is a team that is still a couple years away from really competing, getting out of that rebuilding phase. But Anthony Santander last year, he had 20 home runs in 2019, but in 37 games last year, he hit 11. He really found his swing. Yeah, the average doesn't really say a ton, batting .261, but his OPS plus was 138. So I think that Anthony Santander is going to be a big piece of this Orioles team, who I don't know if they're going to – I think they're going to get last, but they have a chance to finally get out of the cellar of that division.
We're doing currently or all-time right now?
Just currently. We're not doing all-time at all.
Okay, all right. So currently, for the Orioles, I got Trey Mancini. That's who I got. He unfortunately didn't play in 2020. But so far, like, for example, his latest one in 2019 when he was with Baltimore as well, his average was 291. And before that, 293 in 2017. 2018 got a little bit down with 242. But I think this player definitely has some really a bright future ahead of him. So I think he could be the franchise player pretty soon for the Orioles. So I'm going to go with Trey Mancini.
I agree. I'd make the argument that he's already gotten there and that he already is the face of that franchise. So I like that. 3 of us, three different players. How about that? We're already off to a great start. This is great. We're doing – yes, Marco, we're doing an incredible job. So now that leads us into the 2018 World Series champion Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox here are a team that has a lot of question marks entering this year. Are they going to be competitive, or are they going to be at the bottom of the division? That all really depends on Chris Sale, when he comes back, if he comes back, and when he does come back, how well is he playing? But my underrated player for the Red Sox, I think might be someone we all have here, is Xander Bogaerts. I think Xander Bogaerts is really one of the most underrated players in baseball. Had an incredible year last year, was incredibly overlooked as well. Just an outstanding season from him in 2020 that people needed to be paying more attention to. And I think as a guy who has really set himself up, not only was he a member of the most recent World Series before 2018 and 2013 in that incredible year for the Red Sox, he was the rookie that year, and he's been the center of this franchise ever since. And right now, I would make the argument that he is really the face of that franchise. And that's a big deal for him. And I think he's taking on a lot of responsibility, and people still aren't even valuing him as well as they should.
For me, I went with Christian Vasquez. Over the past 2 seasons, he's hit .278 with .327 on base and slugging percentage of .472. He's also ranked 8th among catchers with at least 1,000 innings in defensive runs saved, 3rd in framing runs, and 3rd in Fangraphs wins above replacement. I think Christian Vasquez is one of the most underrated catchers in the MLB.
I agree.
So for Boston, I really like the Xander Bogaerts one, Michael, but I got to go with Rafael Devers. I think he's super, super underrated when it comes to the hot corner at third base. In 2020, he hit .263 in 57 games, but the year before, in 2019, oh my gosh, he played 156 games. He had an average of .311, bro. And he doesn't get the respect he gets, So I think Rafael's definitely a player that needs to get so much more value because now they're talking about Alex Verdugo, Kike Hernandez, obviously Xander Bogaerts, and at one time Jackie Bradley Jr. But Devers barely got any talk about it because he was very consistent when it came to being the third baseman over for the Red Sox.
I agree. I think that's a very good player right there. I mean, Rafael Devers is an incredible player. He has really shown up very well in his entire career. He's just such a spark plug. So then we go over to the New York Yankees, and the Yankees are another really questionable team this year. I mean, I see a lot of Yankee fans on Twitter. Obviously, being a Mets fan, I see a lot of Yankee tweets as well. Yankees Twitter is very confident about 2021, as they should be, but the Yankee fan base is acting like they've gotten better in the offseason, which they really haven't. I mean, I would make the argument that they've honestly gotten worse since the offseason began, and this is going to be a questionable year for them. So a lot of things, obviously, we're going to touch on that a lot as we go forward, heading into the preseason preparation for us here on the channel. But my player I've got here for the Yankees is Clint Frazier. I think someone we probably can all agree on the Yankees team that is very underrated, deserves a lot more attention than he's gotten. My buddy Ben, who's a big Yankee fan from New York, has always been high on Clint Frazier. I always love to chat him up whenever the Yankees have some success because of Clint Frazier, because he's just a great player and he deserves the attention that he hopefully will be getting sometime this year.
Gio Urshela for me. He's overshadowed by so many guys for no reason, really. He hit .298 last year with 6 home runs, 30 RBIs in 43 games. He is really starting to put himself in as the third baseman in New York, and I think that's huge for him, and I think it's huge for the Yankees. And if he hits like he did last year, this is a guy that could really burst onto the scene this year.
Funny, those two I really had into consideration, but I was like, I'm going to get someone different, see if they don't get it. But the thing is, there's a mixture of someone who has high expectations, but even though I think he's still kind of underrated, in my opinion. That's Gary Sanchez. I think he doesn't get as much respect as he deserves in New York, because they keep telling like, oh, we're going to trade him away, stuff like that. But the fact that this guy so far during his career in the MLB has had 2 30-plus home run seasons, it means something. Like, obviously, last year he only had 10, but on a good given day, he could be the best player on that roster. And I just think they're not giving the respect he deserves because of his inconsistency sometimes. But when he's hot, he's hot. He's one of the most dangerous hitters in baseball.
I agree. I mean, definitely 2 powerful guys there. How about us? We're 3 for 3 on having none in common right now. I got to say that's a pretty good thing. Now, the Rays, I think, is a team where we will probably all get wrong, or not wrong, but none of us will agree. I can say that for certain now. One of the most underrated teams in the game. I'm going here for a little bit of a wild card, but I'm going for Yandy Diaz. I think Yandy Diaz is a very good player. He really made his burst onto the scene in 2019. First inning, home run against the Athletics. That was in the wild card game that year. An incredible moment for him that I think really brought him onto the scene as one of the top players. He's a leader in the clubhouse. He shows up and does very well. And he's a name that more people in baseball should know. And I think that's the main reason why I have him as underrated. I think he's rated pretty fairly with the way he hits, but I just think he's a guy who many more people need to know in this sport.
Give me Joey Wendell. Someone who doesn't really have a solidified spot on that team, but yet he still plays 50 games. He doesn't have his set spot, hit .286 with 4 home runs, 9 doubles, I think that Joey Wendell is a guy that can really bring something off the bench or even in a starting role for the Rays, especially this year after losing some key guys in the pitching staff. They're going to have to get some more offense.
For the Tampa Bay Rays, I have Kevin Kiermeier. I think the thing about Kevin is that he's not the best offensive bat, but he's a really, really good defender. He's a 3-time Gold Glove winner. I think he's a really consistent when it comes to the outfield. I think he only has to improve his bat a little bit. But when it comes to, I think, maybe his presence on the field, I think he's one of the best in the Tampa Bay Rays organization. So Kevin Kiermeier for me.
Yeah, Kevin Kiermeier, obviously, predominantly has been the face of that franchise for years. And I think that's an important thing. And I also really love Joey Wendell, another great guy to watch. So we move on to the Toronto Blue Jays here, the last team in the AL East. And first of all, the Blue Jays are a team stacked with players that have very high promise. But this guy is personally, to me, very underrated, especially after the year that he had. A guy who played in 2011, 12, and 13 and did not play until 2020, where he made his kind of rebirth in Major League Baseball at age 33, Rafael Dolis. Dolis pitched in 24 games in 2020 and pitched to a 1.5 ERA. He had a 1.25 whip, but I mean, a 1.5 ERA is incredible. There was a time period where there was about a week there where he was one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball this season, and another guy that not enough people know the name of, and I think that's something that we really should be paying attention to.
For the Blue Jays?
Yes.
Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He hasn't even played 100 games in a season yet, and he still hit 42 home runs over his first 3 years, hitting 287 for his short 3-year career, OPS plus of 123. I really like Lourdes Gurriel, and he's overshadowed by the big guys like Biggio, Bichette. It's going to be Springer now. So I think Lourdes Gurriel is the most underrated player on that team.
Yeah, I agree with Ryan. That's the one I got to as well, because now you have George Springer coming into the picture. You have Vladdy Guerrero Jr., who the thing is, like, I think Vladdy has been so overhyped that they haven't seen the stats of Gurriel Jr., because he's been great, in my opinion. Like, in the 3 years he's been there, he's averaging, I think, 287 in the majors, if I'm not mistaken, for his batting average. I think it's pretty solid for a 3-year player in the major league. So I think he's just being overshadowed by, like Ryan said, Biggio, Bichette, Vladdy, now Springer, and even Hyun-Jin Ryu, a pitcher, So I think Gurriel needs to get a lot more respect from the whole baseball world.
I completely agree. He and Teoscar Hernandez, I completely agree with, are great players that deserve a lot more attention. So now something we're going to be doing a little bit more in the upcoming weeks and going forward. I'm going to let you guys host the next two divisions. Ryan, you are going to be the host of the Central Division. You're going to lead us in, and then it'll go Marco, me. But you're going to just lead it. You're going to do what I've been doing, and you're hosting the AL Central and NL Central. Marco, you're going to be the host of the West. This is exciting. I love this. I love letting you guys getting to do this. It's going to be something different. So, Ryan, take it away.
All right, gentlemen. So let's start off in the AL Central. Who do we have for the Cleveland Indians?
No, you start us off.
I'm starting? No, yeah. I don't. No, on shows that I host, I don't go first, and I don't want to.
Okay, fine.
Marco, go ahead.
Okay, so for the Indians, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who I have for the Cleveland Indians is, for me, who was the best second baseman last year. I have to go with Cesar Hernandez. I think he is a great, great player. His first season with the Indians, he had 283. And this guy, I think he was just an amazing second baseman. I think he deserves so much more respect because he was consistent, he was durable, he was a great, great bat, and I just think that he's a great player all around, and he deserves more spotlight. And obviously, when Lindor was there, he was the star player, and now it's Jose Ramirez, but Hernandez is still like in the shadows to many people. So Hernandez for me.
I like that. That's a really great pick for second base. I think that's a really good one.
Hey, that's That's what I do, baby. Come on.
I've always been a fan of him. He did a very good job in Philadelphia. Now for the Indians, I've got Tristan Mckenzie. He's a rookie player still, but he is coming off a really solid rookie campaign. He pitched very well in 2020. He really impressed a lot of people. He impressed me, and I think he's going to be a really big pitcher in that rotation. I mean, the Indians have always prided themselves on pitching. We all know that, and I think he's going to be a guy who could be a potential future star to go in a rotation alongside Bieber, Plesac, and others that are going to just really be potentially the next Kluber, Bauer, Salazar, Carrasco. I mean, they're already setting themselves up, and I think that that's a really good thing for them.
Michael, you took my guy, Tristan Mckenzie. He had a very solid rookie campaign. I remember when I was watching him pitch against the Royals, I was like, this kid's going to be something. He has some great stuff. He's got some great heat on his fastball, mid to high 90s, and then also a great off-speed, 2 off-speed pitches that I think are really going to benefit him. So I think Tristan Mckenzie is the guy for the Indians. Next up, who do you guys have for the Chicago White Sox, who, according to Tim Anderson, is the best team in the American League?
Well, here's the question for both of you. Who is the player that comes to your mind when you think of the Chicago White Sox? Michael, who do you think of?
The guy that I have as my underrated player, Mr. Jose Abreu.
Yes, that's who I have.
I think we probably all do, but we'll see what happens.
Dude, like obviously you got Eloy Jimenez and you got Tim Anderson. Those are 2 players that people think of so much, but Jose Abreu is a recent MVP, and people still think of Tim Anderson instead of Jose Abreu with the White Sox. So I'm like, Jose Abreu is a stud. So I think he's the most underrated player on that team, without a doubt. I gotta say it.
I'd make an argument that he's the most underrated player in baseball. I really would. I mean, he is. I have loved Jose Abreu since the second.
I don't know about that. I think there's a player that I'm going to say later who I think gives him a run for his money.
I agree. I completely agree. I think that.
So you know who I'm talking about.
I do. I think we're on the same page here. We'll get
to on your team, Ryan. I'm thinking. Is it?
No, it's not. I have a feeling it'll come back when I'm hosting again. But it's he's the most underrated player in the American League. I'll go that far. I think he is definitely the most underrated player in the AL, who is very, very good and just criminally underrated.
For me, I went with Jose Abreu too. This guy has been insane in his 7-year career. Hit 294. He's led the league in RBIs the past 2 seasons. All besides 2 of his seasons, including this year, he has had under 100 RBIs. And if this was regular season, he has more than 100 RBIs. This guy is insane. He's got the power. He's got the ability to drive in runs. And yet people think, oh, it's Tim Anderson who's the star. No, the star is Jose Abreu. I don't care that he just won MVP. He is still severely underrated because nobody puts him on the top of some of the best players in the league. All right, gentlemen, let's move into the Detroit Tigers. Who do you have as their most underrated player for 2021? Marco?
My laptop froze for a bit.
2020, 2021 problems.
There you go. So, for who I have for the Detroit Tigers is CJ Cron. He had a bad 2020 season, and really he had 190. But I think this guy has potentially doing something good. He's been with many different teams, with the Angels, the Rays, the Twins, and now Detroit, and he's going to be 31 years old in 2021. So I think this guy, look, his best season was in 2016 when he had 278. But I think he's still some left in the tank that he could be something good for the Tigers, in my opinion.
I mean, I've always been a slight fan of CJ Cron. I think he's a solid player. I went with Jeimer Candelario here. I think after the year he had in 2020, very solid offensive season. I believe he had the best offensive season out of anyone on the team other than Willie Castro, but he played a whole year. I mean, I remember when I first saw him coming up through the minors, I was like, dude, that guy's a great name. And he always hit very well, and he hits for power, and he's going to hit for power. And I think he's a very underrated name that a lot more people need to pay attention to.
Sorry, I almost said something when I was on mute. Michael, you took my guy again. You took my guy again.
We think alike, Brian. We know this.
He hit 297 last year, had 7 home runs, drove in 29. He was a guy that I really think could be a staple of this team that's up and coming, that has a very bright future. So, yeah, I have Jeimer Candelario. Now, let's move on to the reigning 2-time champions of the Central, the Minnesota Twins. Who do we have?
For the Minnesota Twins, For the Minnesota Twins, I got Max Kepler. That's who I got for the Twins. I think he is super underrated. Even like his name, I don't know. You guys think I'm weird, but like I just think of a great ball player when he has such a baseball name, in my opinion. I don't know how to explain that, but I think Max Kepler is the most underrated player on the Twins team, I think.
Okay. So I had a little bit of a predicament here because we initially had this show that was supposed to be like 3 weeks ago. And at that point, Alex Colomé hadn't signed yet. So I had him written down for the White Sox. And I initially had Max Kepler written down for the Twins, but Alex Colomé is now on the Twins. So I now have Alex Colomé for the Twins because I firmly believe that he is a very underrated player. He has not gotten really any love, even from back when he was pitching with the Rays and was just unbelievable. He had a sub-1 ERA in 2020. That speaks for itself. The guy had a better year in 2020 than Liam Hendricks, who got an insane contract, and people just don't even respect him. I mean, they don't. I believe Alex Colomé deserves so much more respect than he gets, and that's why he's my underrated player now for the Twins.
I'm going to go with Randy Dobnak. He was insane in 2019 with a 1.59 ERA in 9 games. Last year, he took a step back. In 10 games, he had a 4.05 ERA, which isn't horrible for a starting pitcher. But I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be a solid piece of that rotation that they're going to have to rely on later in the season to give them good innings. And I think he's definitely going to do that. So give me Randy Dobnak. Plus, he's got a 5-star rating on Uber. How can you not love the guy?
Fair.
All right. Our final team of the AL Central. I'm wearing them on my hat. The Kansas City Royals. Who do we have?
Okay. You know what? Since it's your team, I'm kind of curious who you think we got.
Yeah, that's true. But that technically gives away who he would have. But if he knows this well enough, I can
guess players that aren't mine. I can guess players who aren't mine.
Okay. Guess. Well, just guess who you think we would have. You know who you know us.
I think for you, Michael, you went with Chris Bubich, and then for Marco, interesting. For Marco, dang, that's tough. I guess he would go with Ryan O'Hearn.
I got one of your big boys, bro.
Which one?
Jorge Solaire.
I knew it. Really? I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming.
Really?
I think he's underrated in the thing about Jorge, I think he's one of the most underrated players in baseball. I think he's a great player, and the fact he's one of the most underrated players in baseball, it makes him the most underrated player in the Royals organization because I think the guy's a straight-up stud. You know, obviously, I think when Alex Gordon was on the team, I think Alex was the most underrated player, but now that he's gone, I think it's Jorge Solaire.
I like that pick.
I do too. I personally think that Jorge Solaire isn't that underrated. I just think that he hits. But Marco, you're a power guy. We know you're a power guy. We know you.
28 home runs in 2019.
I know. I completely understand. I went with. Ryan, you were on track with the pitcher, but I went with the guy who was a little bit more established. I went with Jesse Hahn. As I displayed in the top 50 when we were rating players to the top 50 players of the year, I'm very fond of Jesse Hahn. I've always been a fan of him ever since he was on the Athletics. He was always a really great pitcher there, and he just was a really great starter. And now that he's kind of transformed into this reliever role / starter role, he has just been a really great pitcher for the Royals, and I think he brings a lot to the table for them. So, Ryan, thank you. That was a great job hosting your segment
I haven't
here.
done my guy yet.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, I cut you off before you got to your own team. Go ahead.
I went with Alberto Monteci. And the reason is, after he struggled the past couple of years, people are saying, oh, he's a bust. Oh, he's overrated. Here's the thing. There is nobody else that I want on the base pass, really. The past three seasons, he has 109 stolen bases. Wow. Last year, he led the league with 24 in 59 games. Yeah, has he struck out a lot? And yeah, is his average great? No. But he's got the range in the field. And I think that he's going to turn the bat around. And you saw him do it in September last year. He turned it around and he was hitting the cover off the ball. So I'm going with Monteci for the Royals' most underrated player.
If Alberto Monteci can hit well, he will be a Trey Turner-like player, which is unbelievably good. So that is definitely a great pick. I personally, obviously not seeing him every day hurts, but I don't necessarily see the value that you see in him, but you see him more than I do. So you have the right.
He's also got someone creeping up on his back right now.
And who's that?
Bobby Witt Jr. I don't know what they're going to do with Bobby Witt. There are so many routes that they can go where they can put him at third and move Dozier to first, or they could go with Bobby Witt at short and move Mondesi to third, or they can put Bobby Witt at second. There's so many different variables that go into that, so it's just a wait-and-see type of thing.
We'll have to wait and see, like you said. So again, like I said before, and then I rudely cut you off. Great job on the segment. We're going to be doing more of that. Once the regular season starts, we'll be getting more into that coming soon. But I do have these guys are going to be hosting their own segments on the show where they're going to be talking about their own thing, which is really exciting. Marco, let's hear what you got. Take us for the AL West.
I'm hosting the AL West?
Yeah.
If I'm an NL West guy, though?
Yeah, I'm doing AL East, NL East. Ryan's doing AL Central and NL Central, and you're doing the West.
I'm just kidding. All right, ladies and gentlemen, AL West's most underrated players per franchise. Starting out with the Houston Astros. I'm going to go with Michael because you love the Astros. So who do you have for the Houston Astros as the most underrated player?
I went with Kyle Tucker here. I think Kyle Tucker is a very underrated player. I think he's a guy that can hit very well, and I think he's someone who – I mean, the Astros are very – in general, I think the Astros are one of the more overrated teams in the game where a lot of people kind of overrate a lot of their players. But I do think Kyle Tucker is kind of on the cusp where he can kind of go both ways. I think he's got a lot more potential than he's been able to show. When he first came up, a lot of people had very high hopes for him, and unfortunately, he just hasn't been able to do that yet, but we'll see if he can play through it.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. Now, Ryan Blank. Fill in the blank and tell us who is the Astros' most underrated player.
Yes.
I'm going to go with Yuli Gurriel. He had a very much down year in 2020, but I want to go away from 2020 and look at his 2019 numbers and 2018. 2019, 298 average. 2018, 291 average. 2017, 299 average. Again, the reason why I've gone with a lot of these guys is because they have been overshadowed. And that's exactly what's happened with Yuli Gurriel because of Altuve, because of Correa, Springer, Yordan Alvarez. He's been overlooked, and yet he's someone that can really make an impact in a lineup, and that's why I'm really going with Yuli Gurriel.
Awesome, perfecto. Now, the player I got for most underrated player on the Astros organization is Michael Brantley. I think he's a great hitter, outfielder, but he is overshadowed and overlooked by many other great outfielders in the game. You know, he's been very consistent. He's almost hitting for 300 almost every single season. I think he's a great outfielder and a great bat. So I think he's the most underrated player on that franchise. But moving on to the next team that we have here on the AL West, I'm going to go with the Oakland Athletics. So, Michael, starting off again with you, the Athletics, most underrated player.
Yeah, the Athletics are an interesting team. I think a lot of us we've spoken about this guy particularly in the past. I think we rated him as the top pitcher for the Athletics in 2020. I think most of us did. I'm going with Chris Bassett. Chris Bassett, a very solid pitcher. He's very underrated. He's getting older, but I mean, he's been in the league for a few years and he's finally come into his own. It looks like he is turning into the pitcher that the Athletics are hoping him to be, and I think that's a good thing for them.
All right, thanks, Michael. Ryan, what you got for me, boy?
I'm going with Yusmeiro Petit. I think he's been underrated so long. Because if you think about it this way, the past 4 years, a 2.74 ERA. Over the past 2 seasons, a .87 whip, which is identical to the man that just got a huge contract and the best closer of the game, Liam Hendricks. I think that Yusmeiro Petit, especially after having a 1.66 ERA in 2020, definitely underrated. Nobody talks about him. And I think you're finally going to see him come out of the water with Liam Hendricks now in Chicago.
Okay. Who I got for the Athletics' most underrated player is Matt Olsen. I think he is overlooked by the fact that Matt Chapman is on that team. I think Matt Olsen, what he does for the squad over in Oakland is definitely something big. The first baseman, I think he's been a great defender as well. So, it's like I said, the fact that Matt Chapman's on that team, he takes all the spotlight because we know Matt Chapman definitely hits for power. Obviously, when Chris Davis was there too, now he's gone. Took a lot of the spotlight as well for Matt Olsen. So, I think Olsen is very underrated. Also, when Simeon was there too, the shortstop, Olsen was under the shadows. But anyways, that's the Oakland Athletics. Now moving on to Los Angeles Angels. Michael, who do you got for the Angels of Anaheim?
So I think the Angels, we may all agree on this one. I went with David Fletcher. I think David Fletcher is a very good infielder, one of the top, if not the top bat from the Angels in 2020, which is something virtually impossible to do when you're on the same team as Mike Trout. But David Fletcher managed to do that. In a year where you hit better than Mike Trout, when Mike Trout's on your team, you're automatically going to be seen as a great player. So I think that's, for me, a clear-cut answer.
Mr. Blank, what do you got now for the Angels?
I agree. I think David Fletcher is a star. He's a rising star, and I think he is becoming one of those guys that could be a potential trio guy for the Angels with Rendon and Trout. Over the past 2 seasons, Fletcher has a .356 on-base percentage, and he has the highest contact rate over that span at 91.3%. His whiff rate is 3.2%. Also, I think one of the things that make him so valuable is he can play all over the field. He's found his spot really at second base, but he can play so many positions. So, yeah, I agree with you, Michael. David Fletcher for sure.
Okay, boys. I almost got David Fletcher too, but I went someone else because now that Simmons is out of there and obviously Anthony Rendon is at the third base, I went with Jose Iglesias from the Angels. I think he is definitely a really good player for the Angels. Last year in 39 games, he had .373 batting average. In 2019, in 146 games, he had .288. So a pretty good bat, if you ask me. And now that Simmons is out of there, maybe we'll get the everyday position at shortstop. Who knows? Or rotations with Anthony Rendon. But I think Jose Iglesias is the most underrated player for the Angels. But moving on to the next team that we have here on the, what do you call it, the rundown? What do you call it, the bullpen? I don't care what it is. But let's go with the Seattle Mariners. Who do you guys got for the Mariners as the most underrated player, Michael?
I went with Dylan Moore here. I think Dylan Moore is a very underrated bat. He has been a leader in that clubhouse for the last couple of years and has been a guy that has hit very well. He's been overshadowed oftentimes by all the other names there, especially Kyle Lewis. I mean, honestly, everyone was pinning Kyle Lewis as the best player of 2020 for them, when really Dylan Moore hit better. I mean, he's a great hitter, and he, to me, stands out as a very great player.
Mr. Blank.
Yeah, this one was tough. I think that there are a few guys on that team that you could say are underrated, but I'm going to go with Kyle Seeger, someone who has been with that team for a long time. Yeah, his average the past 4 years has been very poor, but he's constantly hitting over 20 home runs, driving in over 60 runs. I think that looking at Kyle Seeger, there's a guy that you want on your team to help groom and lead the young guys, and that's definitely Kyle Seeger, and I think that he is a better power hitter than anyone gives him credit for.
Well, Ryan, I have to agree with you because I really think that Kyle Seeger is the most underrated player over there at Seattle. We know everything that was going on with the owner-president of the team, his comments that happened, and he almost on his way out. But I think Kyle Seeger is a great, great player for the Seattle Mariners, and he's awesome. I really enjoy him. So moving on to the next team that we have here on the rundown, it's Texas Rangers, the last one of the AL West. So, Michael, who you got?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, the Rangers are, they are a team, a part of this AL West that is turning into the NL Central. The AL West and NL Central are really standing out right now as the worst teams in each respective league, their divisions in each respective league. And I think that for the Rangers, they have a lot of question marks. They had a lot of holes to fill and they didn't really fill them. So I'm going with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. I think that he was a very good player in 2020 who, he was not really the best. A few of us labeled him as the best hitter from their team in 2020 when we had that show in the beginning of the offseason. But I just am very underwhelmed with this Rangers team. A team that was once competing for the AL West every year is now, I look at this team and I say, man, that's your last place team by far. It's hard to watch.
Ryan?
For the Rangers, I'm going with Mike Foltynewicz. I think that he's a new guy on the block for them, and I think he's trying to re-emerge himself from the cellar where he was after one appearance with the Braves in 2020, had a 16.2 ERA. But look at him a few years ago at 2018 with a 2.85 ERA, 2 complete games, one of them being a shutout, and 183 innings. I think that he can get back to that. But most importantly, if he's someone that's going to be in the 3.3, 3.5 area ERA, that's all the Rangers need. So give me Mike Foltynewicz to be a guy that will prove to throw some very solid innings.
Awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Let's wrap it up. Who I have for the Rangers and Mr. David Dahl. It's going to be his first season as a Texas Rangers, and he used to be with the Rockies, but I think David Dahl is going to come in with a lot of pressure on his shoulders because of his 183 average in 2020 with the Rockies. So I think he hasn't played one single game, like regular season game with the Rangers, and I think he's super underrated because of his 183 compared to the 302 in 2019. So David Dahl for me is the most underrated player with the Rangers as of right now. But that will do it for the AL West. I'll send it back to you, Michael, for the NL East.
Incredible. So the NL East, we have a lot of great teams here. By far the most competitive division in the game right now, which is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And this is going to be another division where, we come from the AL West where they were all seemingly not many great players that we had here. The NL East is going to be all of these underrated players are really outstanding players. And we start that off with the Atlanta Braves. And now the Atlanta Braves here, the main reason why I have this guy here for the Braves is primarily because when I was looking at his name, I was like, man, do I really want to have him here? That thought is immediately why I realized he has to be, because that means that I'm underrating him myself. That's AJ Minter. Love AJ Minter. By far one of the most incredible left-handers in the game right now that has just gotten so underrated from everybody, and I think he deserves a lot more attention.
Michael, you might not like my pick. Who do you think I'm going to go with?
I think you're going with Freddie Freeman.
No. I'm going with Travis Garneau.
Ah, darn.
And the main reason is, after such an electric season from him last year, people aren't saying that they're still saying, oh, he's not even a top 15 catcher. Are you kidding me? Quit underrating this dude. If he has another great year and people still say that, then I might delete Twitter. Because he had a terrific year, hitting 321, adding 9 home runs, 34 ribbies. His OPS was a career high 919. His average was a career high. He had a career year. So, yeah, I still think he's underrated.
All right. So for me, it's weird because excuse me. This guy's been in baseball since 2006 and he still doesn't get a lot of credit, so I'm going to go with Mr. Nick Marchakis. I think he's very underrated on that roster. I think he's overshadowed by obviously Freddie Freeman and obviously Ronald Acuna Jr. and some of their pitching staff. But I think Nick Marchakis, for the age that he has, 37 years old, he's very consistent. I think he's a great player. Obviously, he played with the Orioles as well, and not the best time there because it's the freaking Orioles. Like Michael's crazy dumb shirt. I wish that was the only shirt you didn't buy, but anyways, I'm not gonna judge.
Hey, one for every team means one for every team.
Anyways, I'm gonna go with Nick Marchakis as the most underrated player with the Braves.
The Braves are going to be a very dangerous team this year. Now we move on to the Miami Marlins, and the Marlins are they're another underrated team, very underrated team entering 2021. I went with Brian Anderson, one of the most underrated players in the game, possible MVP candidate for this year. He has always just been right there in terms of being a top player in the game, and I think that this year might be the year he breaks out.
Sorry, what team are we on?
The Marlins.
Marlins, give me Adam Duvall. Honestly, I think he's going to have a breakout year, especially after leaving the Braves. And looking at the left field position, it's not a very deep position around the league, but I think that this is a very much low risk signing by the Marlins, and I really like how Adam Duvall in his career. You think about him being a power hitter, but in his career, he's been a real solid left fielder with 42 defensive runs saved, going back to, of course, 2014, which is the fourth best amongst left fielders in that span. So I really like Adam Duvall this year.
Well, I feel victim now because I feel exactly what Ryan felt a couple picks ago because Michael got my player as well. Brian Anderson from the Marlins. I think he's a great, great player. He's very underrated. So in baseball in general. So I'm gonna go with Anderson for the Marlins.
That's a good one. I mean, he's a great player. I agree with you, obviously. So the Marlins, we'll see how they play out this year. Now we go to my team, the New York Mets, as the Mets are obviously a team to watch out for this year. But I want to see you guys go first on this one because obviously I want to hear what you guys have to say about them.
This is tough. And I have a few names written down, and it's tough because there's so many guys on this team that you could say, hey, they're underrated. I hate that I'm going to have to go with him because we just haven't seen enough of him yet. I'm going Dominic Smith. I love Dominic Smith. I think once the DH comes back in the NL, you're going to see Pete Alonso go to DH, and then Dominic Smith's going to be the first baseman. And I love Dominic Smith. I think he is underrated. I think he's a very talented player, great swing. So give me Dominic Smith.
Okay.
This is hard because I think the Mets are full of players that are overhyped more than underrated. So I think that's happening. I'm just kidding with you, Michael.
I was like, okay.
No, for me, I was gonna say Conforto. That's who I was gonna say because I think he's a great player when it comes to outfield and also the bat. So underrated in baseball, but I'm gonna go with someone different who is a brand new Met who signed, and I'm gonna go with Jonathan VR. So I think he is with the Marlins. I think he was pretty good. and he could be something big for the Mets this year. And I'm gonna go with him just to be different. I don't want to say Conforto because I know that wouldn't make you happy either.
See, I'd be happy with you going with Conforto. I personally don't think VR is going to have a great year. He has not gotten a hit yet in spring training. He's played almost every day. I hope he does well, and he had a great year last year. But
hold up, it's spring training.
I know, but to not have a hit yet, I get.
Someone gave me crap because the Padres beat the Dodgers 2-1.
Oh yeah,
the other day. I'm like, I don't freaking care. It's spring training.
Yeah,
tear it down, Marco. Tear it down. Trade everyone. It's over.
Yeah,
trade everyone. Tear it down.
Rebuild. This is over. We got to rebuild.
No question. It's like the Mets lost game 1 of the spring. Oh gosh, trade Lindor. Don't extend Conforto. I love the spring training chatter. So I went with the person who I think is going to have probably the biggest breakout year for the Mets. I think that's going to be Brandon Nimmo. I think Brandon Nimmo is going to have a phenomenal year being the everyday center fielder. He is getting the chance to play every day. I am happier and happier by the day that they didn't sign George Springer because that would have had to push out Nimmo. And he has just been hitting the cover off the ball. He looks more motivated than ever. And I think that that's going to be something that really looks good for him. So the Mets, obviously, I'm very hopeful for a lot of players on the team, but having to select one, Dom Smith was there for a while for me. And then I just last minute changed it to Brandon Nimmo because of how he's been doing in spring training. So the Philadelphia Phillies are next up here. We have a very good bunch of guys here. I'm just going to let you guys go first for this because you guys are doing it too for me. So you guys can start us off. So Ryan, what do you have? You're still muted.
Well, I just screamed out because I wanted you to go first because I'm still thinking because this team, I don't want to pick any pitchers. I can't. I just can't. I would pick what?
I'll go while you think about it if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So for me, the players on the player on the Phillies I think is underrated is a former Diamondback, and never mind. He's not a former Diamondback. I'm thinking about someone else. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Gene Segura. He was a former Mariner. That's what I was thinking about.
He was on the Diamondbacks too, but.
Where? Oh yeah, 2016.
Yeah, he was on the Diamondbacks. I think didn't he start his career? He started his career on the Diamondbacks.
No, I was confusing him with Catel Marte for a second. I was like, oh no, wait, hold up. But Gene Segura for me is the most underrated player on the Phillies roster because you have players like Andrew McCutchen, who even though he's gone very downhill, he's still more overhyped than Gene Segura. Then you have Bryce Harper, obviously, that to some people is very underrated. To some, I don't know how. But I think also Ryan Hoskins, like Bohm, but Gene Segura is for me the most underrated player.
Also, Gene Segura did not start his career with the Diamondbacks. That was a mistake by me. He started his career with the Angels and then played for the Brewers for like 5 years. Completely forgot about that. He did play in 2016 with the D-backs. I don't know why I thought he was there longer. But Ryan, did you figure out your player?
Jose Alvarado. And the reason is, over his career, he's only pitched in 21 games in 20.1 innings, but an ERA of 2.66, 28 strikeouts, and a whip of .93. That's insane. And that's a big move for the Phillies to make to boost that horrible bullpen. So I think Jose Alvarado is going to be a big piece and probably their best bullpen pitcher this year.
I like that. I like that pick a lot. I went with the former Met, Zach Wheeler. I think Zach Wheeler is really coming into his own with the Phillies. I think he is sneakily, especially the way Aaron Nola's been pitching, sneakily the ace of that staff. And I think a lot of people would give me flack for that. But, I mean, Wheeler had an incredible year last year, and he has been very good the last couple of years. And I think he is just going to dominate with the Phillies. So now we have the Washington Nationals. Ryan, you could start us off on this one.
The Nationals. We already know what I'm saying. Trey Turner, baby. I am so tired of people saying he's not that good. Are you kidding me? He is a top 5 shortstop in baseball, and barely any people give him that respect. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. He hit .335 last year. He had 78 hits in 59 games. He led the entire major leagues. He had also 4 triples. He had 12 stolen bags. OPS plus 157. This is just the start for this man. And people got to start giving him his dang respect. As LeBron said, I want my respect.
So that's who you're labeling as your most underrated player in baseball, right? Okay, thought so.
Easily.
Okay, good.
I have to agree with Ryan. I think Trey Turner is one of the best players in baseball, not tied, but like at the same time, one of the most underrated players in baseball. The guy is straight up nasty. He's so fast. It's ridiculous. He got a great glove. He can hit. He's a great all-around player, and he's just overlooked in a team that's just crappy. You know, he's okay. I know Juan Soto is definitely a great player, but for me, the best player on that team is Trey Turner. But people are more hyped up about Juan Soto than Trey Turner, and I think that's wrong. I think Trey Turner deserves so much more respect within that organization. I really do.
I agree. And I'm going to make a statement here for Trey Turner. Trey Turner is the best shortstop in baseball. And that, for me, is a bold statement.
Time out.
Hey, you want to hear some stats?
Hold on. Are you sick?
No. You want to hear some?
Mrs. Garaffa, if you're watching, please check on your son. I'm begging you. Something is off. Because here's the thing. He would say Frankie Lindor. I know.
No. Frankie Lindor's not the best shortstop in baseball. He
wants to say it.
He's number 4 or number 5. He's not top 3 anymore. He might and can be, but he's not. Trey Turner is the best shortstop in the game. A career .296 batting average since 2015. 75 homers in his career during that time. A 16.6 WAR. Corey Seager in that same time period, he has 13 more home runs, but he's batted .295, a 17.8 WAR. I love Corey Seager. You know that, Marco. He's my one of my favorite players in the game. But with Trey Turner's speed, his glove, I personally believe he's the best shortstop in baseball. I also like Fernando Tatis, but he's third place for me in shortstops. And he needs to develop himself more. He's only been
Amber Alert. Come on, Amber Alert. We need it for Michael. Amber Alert.
You guys are really worried about my unbiasedness this week, I guess.
I'm scared that you're sick. I need to come with you. Mrs. Garaffa, 2 things. 1, please check on your son. I am begging you. He might be sick. And 2, I'm excited to see you tomorrow.
Wait, you're going over tomorrow?
Yes, he is. He's coming. I haven't seen Ryan in like 5 months. It's been a long time.
Sick invite, bro. See how it is.
I also have his jersey that I got him for the holidays.
Marco, you're welcome to come over anytime. You can come over whenever you would like. That is always a no.
That's a straight up lie because I told him, hey, bro, can I go watch the World Series game with you? I told him like 4 times, and like at the 5th time, he was like, yeah, bro, come over.
I told you I didn't know what I was doing. I had to make sure that I wasn't busy.
Anyways, go on. Move on.
Hey, it's Ryan's turn now. It's the NL Central. Also, I do realize we're getting to the end of the Blaze show. Blaze, if you are listening to us on Blaze, which I hope you are, you can go listen to the rest in a few minutes. We're not done yet, but make sure you go and check us out on the YouTube because you don't want to miss the rest of this. And Ryan has his segment today, so we're gonna try and get through a little bit of the rest of this a little quicker because right now we're gonna be done in about an hour and a half. But still, make sure you guys are staying locked in and going out and listening to that. So Ryan, take it away with the NL Central.
Let's start off with the Chicago Cubs. Marco, the Alta. Peralta, get it going.
Oh, Ryan, I like that. All right, I see you, big dog. I'm just kidding. For the Chicago Cubs, I got to go with one of their pitchers. I think I think he's the first pitcher I've done all show long. I think, but
Maybe.
I think Kyle Hendricks for me. I think he's super underrated on that franchise. I think it was a really up and coming talent in baseball a couple seasons ago, but he went a little bit downhill. So, but he's still a really good pitcher in my opinion. I think he definitely makes some damage when he's on a hot streak. So Kyle Hendricks for me is the most underrated player with the Cubs.
Hell boy, Michael Garaffa.
So I remember when he came up back in 2015, I believe that was when he came up, and he had to pitch against the Mets that year in the postseason. Everyone had very high hopes for him, and he's really turned into his own. Kyle Hendricks, for me, is in case you couldn't figure out who I'm going with here. Just a great pitcher. Almost was traded in the offseason to the Mets, weirdly, for like 5 minutes. But very, very well-respected player. I think he's a guy who does get rated very well, but I still think he's underrated.
Did you say the name of the player?
Yeah, I said Kyle Hendricks.
Oh,
Kyle Hendricks as well. 2.88 ERA last year in 12 games. And don't forget 2016 when he finished third in Cy Young with a 2.13 ERA. This guy's the best pitcher on that staff, and people still underrate him, and I think that he's going to be the guy there in Chicago this year. Next up, I'm going to let you guys choose. Which team do you guys want to do next?
Well, I'm a fan of the order, and the Reds are next in the order. So the Reds, please.
We'll go with the Reds.
Okay, for the Reds, I have Eugenio Suarez. I think he's super underrated on that team. He's overlooked by, obviously, Joey Votto. And I think Eugenio Suarez is a great defender and also a great bat. So I think he's overlooked by many people around baseball in general.
I'm okay with that. I also think, now that I'm thinking about it, I think we have probably said the word underrated more in this show than we've said any other word ever in any show ever. I think that's safe to say.
No bias towards you.
No, we haven't ever said it this much. We've said it sometimes, but never this much. So for the Reds, he's the thumbnail of this video for a reason. It's Sonny Gray. I can't say enough about him. Loved him since he was on the Athletics. I'm clearly a fan of former Athletics, but I like him a lot. I think he is a very good pitcher, and no matter where he goes in the future, I think Sonny Gray is going to he's finally found himself.
You know what's funny? That's the other pitcher I wanted in 2017 when they were talking about trading for a pitcher.
Yeah, he ended up struggling. So,
well, there's a reason why I wanted Sonny Gray. There's a reason why, because there's 3 pitchers: Justin Verlander, proven quality, proven pitcher. Yu Darvish, I wasn't the biggest fan of, but Sonny Gray, he was young. He could have been coached by Mr. Honeycutt, been surrounded by Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, at that time Hyun-Jin Ryu. I'm like, bro, you're surrounded by all this talent and potential. You'd be a great player. Look what he did with the Reds, and there's not many great pitchers on that roster. I imagine if he was surrounded by 5-star pitchers all day, every day. Just think about it.
Well, he did have Trevor Bauer's mentoring. Also, Ryan, before you go, I want to do sign off for Blaze so that we.
Oh, wait, can I go and then we sign off?
Okay. Yes.
So we lead off correctly, and I'll do the sign off because I'm the host now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm going to go with Nick Castellanos. He's become underrated because of his first season in Cincinnati as a failure. Over the past 5 seasons, 281, 333, 502 line is insane. But last year, his average dropped 64 points. His OPS dropped 64 points. I think that you're going to see a different Nick Castellanos this year. So I think he's underrated because of his season he had last year. All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to go onto YouTube, Running the Bases, so you can see the rest of this episode and when we come at you on Wednesday and next week. Thank you very much for listening. We will see you guys and look forward to your listens this upcoming week. Now, let's get back into it, gentlemen.
Sign off, man. I'm jealous now. Shoot.
Hey, if we were in the West, you would have gotten to. You will eventually. We're getting there.
The Milwaukee Brewers, gentlemen.
The Milwaukee Brewers. I have to go with Mr. Christian Yelich. I'm just kidding. I'm going to go with Brandon Woodruff. I think he is a very underrated player on that roster. He could give you a really good performance every single day whenever he's on or wakes up on the right side of the bed, So I think Woodruff is definitely a player that can make some damage in the NL Central, especially this year, knowing how it's a pretty open division, in my opinion, even though we think the Cardinals are going to take it by a landslide. But it could be anyone's division at the end of the day.
Brandon Woodruff, my goodness, what a great player, what a great pitcher. He has been so good, and I mean, he's my pick by far too. I mean, Marco hit the nail on the head. I really have nothing else to say.
Yeah, I agree with you both. Brandon Woodruff in this one. That was a tired one, as I would say.
Yes.
Next up, the worst team in baseball, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Marco, start it off.
This is hard because I don't know anyone on the Pirates because they're just so bad. It's ridiculous. But I did some digging, and I think Ryan Reynolds is the most underrated player on that roster. So I can't really say much about the dude because the whole team in general is horrible. So I'm going to go Ryan Reynolds as the most underrated player for the Pirates.
So I went with their number one prospect, Ke'Bryan Hayes. I think Ke'Bryan Hayes, he had an okay year in 2020, but I have some solid hopes for him. I think he's going to turn into a pretty good player. I mean, Marco said it best. The Pirates are the Pirates. I mean, they're just really not playing well these last 5 years. So at this point, it's similar to the Rangers. Just it's really anybody.
Thanks, Michael. You took my guy. I went with Brian Hayes. In 24 games last year, he had 376. He is a star in the making. And if there's ever a chance for this Pirates team to get out of whatever they are and actually win ball games, this is their guy to get them there and to help them get there. And let me say it this way. You know the Pirates are that bad when articles are being written. Will the Pirates ever win again?
That's incredible.
So keep that in your minds for a little bit. Next up, and lastly in the NL Central, the St. Louis Cardinals, the favorites for the division.
Mr. Paul DeJong. He's overlooked by Nolan Arenado, obviously Carpenter, Paul Goldschmidt, but I think DeJong is definitely a really, really, really good player on that squad. He is not given the credit as he deserves on that team. Obviously, last year they lost in the wild card against the Padres, but I think Paul DeJong, he's a very dangerous player. If he gets on a really, really good run, especially in the postseason, I think he could be one of the best players in baseball at the moment. So Paul DeJong, for me, is the most underrated player on that team.
I love Paul DeJong. I think he's a great player. He's tormented the Mets. But I'm going with Kwang Hyun Kim. I think Kwang Hyun Kim, coming off a very good first year in the major leagues, he pitched very well last year, a name that not many of us knew about, and he still had a very solid year, arguably the best year out of anybody in that Cardinals rotation, in a Cardinals rotation that really struggled a lot last year. And I think he looked good. He looked very good for a guy in his rookie season, and I have some fairly high expectations for him.
I agree with Marco. Paul DeJong, I think he should have won NL Rookie of the Year in 2017. He got second place. He was insane. And he has dipped down a little bit, but his average went up last year. His OPS has gone down over 100 points, which is the only worrisome thing with me. But I think he's going to definitely benefit from having Arenado there. And I think that he's going to have a big year. So give me Paul DeJong as the most underrated player on that Cardinals team. I think he is someone that we have forgotten about. And sadly, that ends my time. I know we've all loved it and enjoyed it, but the man of the hour, Marco Peralta, will cap us off with his team and his division in the NL West.
Well, we enjoyed it, Ryan, but they're not going to like it as much as they enjoy me hosting the NL West division. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the NL West most underrated players, the first one on the rundown is the Arizona Diamondbacks. So, Mr. Ryan Blank, I'm going to start off with you. The most underrated player for the Diamondbacks, in your opinion?
David Peralta. Yeah.
He's my cousin. I'm just kidding. I wish he would.
I'm going with David Peralta. I really like him. I think that he's going to definitely have a bounce back year after last year. And he has a great bat. He's solid in the field. I think he's starting to become someone that people are forgetting about, and that's the last thing that should happen. He is a very good ball player. So I'm going with David Peralta.
Guys, we have some breaking news. I can't believe we just witnessed the first time Mr. Michael Garaffa went off screen for 5 seconds.
It's happened before. I needed to get water.
Oh, okay, my bad. Don't trust me anymore. I'm sorry. But anyways, Michael, your pick for the Diamondbacks' most underrated player.
I'm going with the guy who really impressed me last year, Zach Gallen, starting pitcher who was just dominant for them, one of their top prospects.
The milkman!
He just looked really good last year. You can't argue that. He was very good, and I think he's got solid potential. I don't see his career going as far as I think other people do. I personally think that potential-wise, I think his potential is a little lower than people are putting it, but he did have a very good year, and based on his stats from last year, I do think he's underrated.
Okay, so for my pick of most underrated player is Mr. Catel Marte, not because I think he's underrated in the Diamondbacks. I think he's underrated in baseball because I think he's a great, great bat. For me, all-star caliber player, but obviously he doesn't have the support around him to make him look like an all-star player. So I have to go with Mr. Catel Marte. But that is the Arizona Diamondbacks. The next one we have on the rundown is the Colorado Rockies. So, Ryan, who do you got for the Rockies, my man?
For the Rockies, I'm going German Marquez. Because here's the thing. Never been an all-star, never received a vote on the Cy Young Award. But over the past 4 seasons, only 14 pitchers have had a higher WAR than Marquez, who has had a 12.2. Also, it's real. The Coors effect is real. He has a 5.1 ERA at home, but on the road, 3.51 in his career. He has a 118 career ERA plus, and he's a durable guy pitching over 600 innings since 2017. So give me Marquez here.
See, I like both of those guys. Well, no, Marco didn't say his. I'm sorry. You said your last player, and then I just got confused.
Hey, Michael, I'm going to tell you an old proverb that my mom used to always tell me. Okay. You have two ears and one mouth. Listen to twice as much as you talk. Shout out to Mama Blank there.
That's a good one. Ooh, I like that. I'm going with Trevor Story. Criminally underrated. I think he is
the best shortstop in the game.
He's not the best shortstop in the game, as I've said, but he is underrated. He is very underrated. People don't value him as much as they should, and just the fact that you said he's the best, and I don't think he is, just shows that he's underrated. So I think that I personally believe that he has always been very good from his stretch when he started his career against the Diamondbacks, where he just murdered them and is the first series he ever played. I've always liked him, and I think he's just going to be a very good player.
Okay. So for me, it's another situation like Catel. I think he's underrated in baseball in general. So I have to go with Mr. Charlie Blackmon. I think he is a player. Obviously, he's a great defender, but he could really hit as well. And it just sucks that players have been leaving the Rockies organization, and the organization is going downhill. I think it'll be pretty soon that we won't see Blackmon or Trevor Story on that team pretty soon. So I got to go with Charlie Blackmon, and I'm going to try to say the next team that we have on here, and that is the San Diego Padres, but I want to see if Mr. Ryan Blank is alive. Ryan, 1, 2, 3, clear. Are you there? Do we have a beat, ladies and gentlemen? Yes. Do we have a pulse? Yes. 1, 2, 3, clear.
Okay, the CPR helped.
Okay.
CPR helped. Thank you, Marco.
Good.
It's alive!
For me, I'm going to go with Trent Grisham. We all know him for the infamous error in the playoffs against the Nationals when he was with the Brewers. But I think he's a solid piece in that outfield. If there's one weakness of the Padres, it's that outfield. That outfield isn't the greatest, but I think Trent Grisham is a growing piece. I think he's going to have a very solid career and be a piece of that lineup for the next few years.
I'm sticking with an outfielder too, but I'm going with another one. I'm going with Will Myers. Myers. Now what?
Royals drafted him.
Oh, I know. I was going to say, I was like, don't you dare tell me he is not underrated, because he is. Spent most of his early years with the Rays. I remember when he came up, that was the same year that Yasiel Puig came up. That was the year of the superstar youngsters. That was a really fun year to watch. But Will Myers is great. I mean, he always has been. He had a very tough patch there in the middle of his career, but now, I mean, he has really developed into the player that we all thought he could be.
So, it's funny, because who was your pick, Ryan, again? Trent Grisham, right?
Yes.
Who was your pick? Will Myers.
Will Myers.
I have another outfielder.
Jurickson Profar?
No.
Tom
Mr. Bam. That's 3 outfielders for the Padres who are underrated. That's pretty crazy. So it's kind of a half season. But I think Tommy Pham, I think he's a great player. He's had 2 seasons, if I'm not mistaken, hitting over 300. So he's really consistent with his bat. So I think this guy is definitely very underrated within the Padres organization. But it goes to show that the Padres team have some really great outfielders. But anyways, moving on to the next team, the San Francisco Giants. So, Ryan, who do you got for the Giants, my man? And I know it's going to be a little bit tough for you because it happened a couple years ago, but go ahead. Sorry about that.
He had to rub it in.
Says a man that's lost 2 World Series.
Yikes.
I don't care. I just won one. I don't care.
We won one the next year. I'll take it.
Can't relate.
Yeah, who'd you lose to again?
Yes.
Ryan, that's the good thing. At least we could say World Series jokes, because we actually won.
Yes, sir.
You know?
Yes, sir. Make Nick and Michael feel terrible. All right. My guy that I'm going with the Giants has been underappreciated his entire career. Brandon Belt.
I like that.
He is a guy, when you think of a first baseman, you think of Brandon Belt because he is an above-average offensive and defensive player. He has great contact abilities and has terrific plate discipline. Last year, he had a slugging percentage of .591, which was the best of his career. And he also has one of the highest walk rates in the major leagues. He is what you want in a first baseman. Someone who can hit for power, contact, and get on base with the walks. Brandon Belt. Easy.
Incredible batting stance, too. So for me with the Giants, I'm going with Mr. Mike Yastrzemski. I think also known as Mike Yastrzemski. Very, very good outfielder. Very powerful bat. I like Brandon Belt as well. But Mike Yastrzemski is he has been very good since bursting onto the scene. And Brandon Belt is the next in line. He was the next in line after Buster Posey kind of hung up his kind of leadership role with the bat, then took over Brandon Belt, and now taking over. It'll be leaning over from Belt now into Yastrzemski once Belt starts to tail off, which he's still very good, but I think Yastrzemski's that next guy.
Can you say that one more time? You make you Yastrzemski?
Yeah. Mike Yastrzemski?
Yeah. Teddy Bruschi? Do you guys know where that's from?
Mike Wazowski?
There you go. No, I don't know what you're talking about though, Marco.
It's a movie, bro. You don't know?
Brent's my movie guy. You gotta have him comment it because he'll know.
Okay. Anyways, I didn't say mine, but I agree with Mr. Ryan Blank. Brandon Belt for me is a consistent, loyal player. You know, he's been there for the longest time. When you've seen players like Madison Bumgarner leave, obviously Buster Posey's been there for some time too. But I think Brandon Belt is definitely a consistent player for the Giants. He's the leader of that franchise, so I think he's very underrated by many people in baseball. But anyways, the last team on the rundown, it is my team, 2020 World Series champions, and I'm so happy to say that. The Los Angeles Dodgers. So, Ryan Blank, who do you got?
Urias. Still, he was electric in that World Series and throughout the postseason, but someone that people just always seem to forget about until he shows up. Like, get this guy's name in your brain, people. He's so good, especially out of the bullpen. I got to go with Urias.
Okay, I'm going with the third most underrated player in baseball and the second best shortstop in baseball, Corey Seager. Corey Seager is just unbelievably underrated. I don't know what it is about shortstops in the National League that just don't get attention. Everyone's looking for the flashy guys of Lindor and Fernando Tatis Jr., but I mean, Corey Seager and Trey Turner have put up the numbers their entire career. They're dominant, and Corey Seager is just unbelievable. And the fact that people don't even put him in the top 3 in shortstop really just bothers me.
Yeah, same here. He's my favorite player on the team. You know, he NLCS MVP and World Series MVP, definitely a great player. One of my favorites. I mean, he's my favorite. But Urias too, he's a great pitcher. I think now of what happened in the World Series, he's getting a lot more respect. You know, he's making a push for that 5th spot in the rotation. So Urias up and coming. But I think the most underrated player on that team is number 3, Mr. Chris Taylor. I think he is overlooked by many people because you have players like Cody Bellinger, you have players like Mookie Betts, you have Max Muncy, Justin Turner. Try to keep going. I'm just kidding. I think Chris Taylor, when he was in 2017, he had one of the best years of his career, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot his stats, but I think Chris Taylor is a great second baseman. But the fact that he plays everywhere too. So he was like the Kike Hernandez 2.0, I think, because for me, Kike was the first utility player on the Dodgers that will be in my heart forever. But Chris Taylor is that type of player too. He could play everywhere. He's a great bat, great defender. So the most underrated player for me is Chris Taylor. But that wraps it up for the NL West and all the most underrated players in each division per team in the MLB. So now, to wrap things up completely, send it back to Mr. Michael Garaffa.
So Ryan, how many? I know your segment is up next. How many questions do you have for us?
15.
Okay, I think that'll be fine. As long as we get through them quickly, we can be good because I do have to eat breakfast sometime soon. So,
well, I can't because it's over like an hour 20, so I can't make it.
Yeah, I know. So that's how long can you stay for, Marco?
I'm looking at the time like, yeah, I can't make it. I can't make it. Yeah, I'm looking at top 10 minutes because I have to drive pretty distant today. So
okay. Well then, yeah. Ryan, what I was thinking you do is ask us one per category, and then
we're doing the full thing.
No. Marco's leaving anyway. What are you gonna just do with me? I was gonna say you ask
on Wednesday.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna have you ask one per category, and then we do it again Wednesday with new questions for those 3.
I'll find other questions. I'll ask you guys each one.
Okay, that's fine. That works as well. Because I don't. Okay. Oh gosh.
Sorry first one. Who finished second to Dodgers lefty Fernando Valenzuela in the 1981 Cy Young Award voting?
Marco, you're muted.
1991, you said?
81.
Nolan Ryan?
Nope. Michael should know this.
I should? Oh. Is it Doc Gooden?
Nope.
Yeah, I didn't think he debuted that early. Well, if I should know this. Gosh. Tom, it's not Tom.
No, yeah, I was going to say Tom. Dang it.
Tom Seaver.
Really?
As a member of the Cincinnati Reds.
I
I
thought
was
he.
trying to say Tom, and then Michael said, "Is it?" I'm like, "Dang it!" He's about to say.
Okay, next one. Who was the first team to turn a triple play?
Yankees.
Nope.
When was it?
1892.
92.
The Cincinnati Red Stockings.
Nope.
Is it a team name that still exists?
Nope.
Great. Just great. Is it a location that still exists?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, 18 what?
92.
So does the team name exist at all just as a different team, or is it just
The team name is just different.
okay?
The city is still there.
So that team name is no longer in use. I don't know. I'm stumped.
Yeah, I
The
can't.
Boston Bean Eaters.
What a name. I love that. Some guys, hold on. We need to take a minute for some commentary on this. There were some guys sitting in a room one day eating beans. Said, let's name our team the Bean Eaters. Like, okay. like they're just sitting there eating a can of beans. And they're like, oh, that sounds like a great name for a baseball team.
You're so clever, Michael.
I know. Thank you.
All right. Who was the first manager to lead two different teams to a World Series title?
Joe Torre. No,
Nope.
sorry. Yogi Berra.
Nope.
I was thinking
1925 and 1940.
1945, 1940.
Those were the two World Series.
Ryan, I don't think I can name a manager from 1940, let alone this guy.
Fine. Bill McKechnie.
What?
Okay, I've got two that you should know.
Okay.
Of the 30 current franchises, only one has never had a player lead its league in home runs. Which one is it?
Is it the Phillies?
Nope.
I think I actually saw a metric on this the other day. No, never mind. Never had a team lead the majors in homers, or the league in homers.
No, they've never had a player lead the league in homers.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
Well, lead their league, like AL or NL.
Yeah. Mets have, Braves have.
It's in the NL.
It's AL.
Oh, okay.
Is it Minnesota?
No.
Pittsburgh.
AL.
They're in the NL.
Oh yeah, sorry.
The Red Sox?
Nope.
No, come on, bro. You can't say that.
Big Papi exists.
I mean, hey, you could have a random year where you could have it randomly where he's just out hit every year. Oh, is it the Orioles?
Nope.
Okay, I was gonna say, well, I mean, I'm wearing the shirt, maybe that's why.
You each have two more guesses.
Okay.
Each of us have two more guesses. Wow, that's crazy. Houston.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is Houston.
Because they were an NL team. And ever since they went from the NL to the AL,
They never led the NL either.
yeah.
Yeah, well, he was asking just in general, have they led their
All right, gentlemen, this one will decide who the winner is. All right.
All right.
Who was the last pitcher from the Padres to lead the major leagues in strikeouts?
The Padres.
Jeff Hoffman. Or Trevor Hoffman. Wow, I just said his Jeff.
Closer, dude.
So you could still lead the majors in strikeouts as a closer if you strike out everybody.
That's really hard.
He won a Cy Young with them.
It's going to be one of those guys that played there for like 2 years and was on another team. Was Vita Blue on the Padres?
It's not Vita Blue.
Was he on the Padres, though?
I think he was.
I do, too. I think he was on the Padres at one point.
I'll give you guys one more hint. Later in his career, he moved to a division rival.
Jake Peavy.
Yep.
Yes!
Michael with the dub.
Let's go. Thank you, Brain. Thank you.
About that.
It is. Because I always know all these players. I just never make the connection. Gosh. All righty. Thank you, everybody, for watching today. I appreciate you guys for listening. So stick around Wednesday night. We are going to be doing – I changed up the outline a little bit. We are officially in preseason mode. We are now discussing everything Major League Baseball for 2021. We are done with our off-season content. This is all preparing for the regular season. Yes, Ryan?
When are we doing our top players at each position?
That's next Sunday.
When are we doing our standings and record predictions?
Hold on. Now you're going to make me pull up the bullpen.
And then when are we doing
all right,
award predictions?
Let me roll through. What was the last one you said?
Award predictions.
Okay, so here we go. Award predictions. Yeah, award predictions. Okay, here we go. So, March 10th, this upcoming Wednesday, most overrated players per team. This show, overrated players. Get ready for it. Going to be a lot of fun. Next Sunday, top 10 players of each position entering the year. March 17th, a Wednesday, we're having our Fantasy League Draft live streamed here on the channel. March 21st, which is, I believe, 2 Sundays from now, we are going to review our off-season predictions. March 21st is when they're locked in, done. The money will be given out. Ryan is currently in the lead by a point, I think. It's either a point or a point and a half. Ryan is leading, defending his title right now. He is so close. Unless some of those guys at the end sign, there's only about 10 to 15 players left on the channel. On the spreadsheet that haven't signed. So it's going to take a lot. It's possible, but it's going to take a lot. Marco, I think Marco's far out. I think it's going to be tough for you to come back and grab the win, but me, I'm 2 points out. Nick's in second. Nick, unfortunately, not here. So March 21st, be here for that. That is going to be exciting as we announce who wins $60, 20 from each of us. That's a big one there. So
wait. From when do we go from 30 to 60? Last time I heard it was 30.
I thought it was 20 each.
Last time I heard it was $10 each.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm going to stay quiet on it because I'm on 60.
Okay, then it's $10 each.
Marco!
No, I was like, wait, did we increase this? I didn't know this.
Okay. Well, if I said 10 originally, it's 10. I just forgot. So $30. Ryan's disappointed. I was planning on upping the ante next time to $20 each. So eventually, maybe you'll get there. So then on March 24th, we are going to be doing a big show. We're going to be packing in so much into it. We are going to be going over every team's offseason additions, subtractions. We are going to be rating every single team's offseason. And then at the end of that, we will have named a winner of the offseason officially, because at that point, the offseason is pretty much over. Yes.
I am not hearing anything about award predictions, standings, and record predictions.
We have 2 more shows, two shows to go before the regular season.
And then I still haven't heard anything about top players at each position.
I just said that's 10. That's a week from today. I said that. Marco, did you hear me say that?
No, because I gotta hit the restroom. Sorry about that. I was like,
So the top 10 players, Ryan. Now we're yelling at me for the 2 ears, 1 mouth. You should probably use the other one more.
You messed it up.
I know I did. I forgot. It's not.
God gave you 2 ears, 1 mouth. You should listen twice as much as you talk.
Good. Okay. So use that and listen.
I want to know how many times your mom is going to use that on you now.
Next Sunday, top 10 players of top 10 of each position entering the year. Ryan, you hear that? Okay.
No, what?
March 28th, our second to last show of season 3. We're doing our very first power rankings entering the year. That's going to be a good one. An entire show on that. We're going to be breaking it down from position to position. Then March 31st, the last show of the season before we enter the year, is our regular season predictions. We're going to be going over awards, divisional predictions, anything. World Series
record predictions.
Yes, we can do record predictions if you want. That's going to be a little over the top and it'll take a long time, but that's fine. We can do record predictions too. That's up to you though if you want to
care.
I think that'll just take a little too long. If I wanted to do that,
let's do our predictions for standing.
Yeah, we're going to do everything we had last year and then more. We're going to have more of those coming up.
Sounds good.
So that's the last show of March 31st. That is going to be the last show before we hit season 4. So we've got a lot of content coming for you guys. So be ready for it. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate you guys for tuning in today. We will see you on Wednesday. Thanks for running the bases with us.